Kinahanglan man nga in bare face, so hindi pwede nga magsuksok sang eyeglasses, hat, or any accessory nga magatabon sang inyo nga facial features. Kinahanglan man nga ang inyo picture nagapakita sang inyo nga tuo kag wala nga dulunggan. And it has to be taken in full face view, directly facing the camera. So dapat direct lagid nga nagaatubang sa camera. And with neutral facial expression and both eyes open. Kaga importante man nga mayara ang picture sang full and handwritten name tag in the format first name, middle initial, last name, kag extension name if any, and signature over printed name. Tandaan nga ang name tag should not be computer generated. So, amoy niya ang isa sa mga gina-emphasize kids ng Civil Service Commission. Dapat ang name tag is handwritten in the following format: first name, middle initial, last name, and extension name if any, and signature over printed name. So, again, tandaan nga hindi pwede ang computer-generated na name tag. Kinahanglan man nga mag-submit sang original and a photocopy of any valid ID containing the applicant's clear picture, date of birth, signature, and signature of the authorized head of the issuing agency. So, ang mga ID nga ginabato naton is include the following: driver's license, SSS ID, GSIS, PhilHealth, current company or office ID, current school ID, postal ID, BIR ID, barangay ID, voter's ID, valid passport, o kon police clearance. So again, kinahanglan man nga mag-submit sang original kag photocopy sang valid ID nga kalakip ang applicant's clear picture, date of birth, signature, subong man ang signature sang authorized head of the issuing agency, such as driver's license, SSS, GSIS, PhilHealth, current company or office ID, or current school ID, postal, BIR, barangay, or voter's ID, valid passport, o kung police clearance. Tandaan nga in case na ang inyo isubmit nga ID does not contain all the required information, the applicant should present another valid ID containing the missing information. So, for example, IDs with lacking information, particular na ang applicant's date of birth. Dapat nga this should be supported by a birth certificate nga gin-authenticate o kung gin-issue sang National Statistics Office or the local civil registrar. So, again, IDs with lacking information, especially ang applicant's date of birth, magdalagid ka mo sang inyo nga birth certificate nga gin-authenticate o kung gin-issue sang NSO o kung sang local civil registrar. And mayara kita sang examination fee of 700 pesos. Tandaan nga failure to take the examination will mean forfeiture of your examination fee. So, dapat nga, hindi gid mag-absent on the day of the examination kay hindi na ninyo mabawi ang inyong examination fee na 700 pesos. So, again, i-recap naton ang mga application requirements. Fully accomplished application form, CS form number 100, revised 2012, nga mahimo ninyo makuha sa CSE field or regional offices o kung sa amon nga website. 4 copies of identical ID pictures, which is of Philippine passport size, that's 1.8 by 1.4 inches or 4.5 by 3.5 centimeters. Colored with white background, taken within 3 months prior to filing of application. The photo should be printed on good quality photo paper. It has to be in standard close-up shot, so from shoulder level up, with the head and face occupying at least 80% of the picture, and with a name tag positioned approximately 1 inch below the chin. In bare face, so hindi pwede magsuksok sa eyeglasses or any accessory that may cover the facial features. The photo also has to show both left and right ears, taken in full face view directly facing the camera, with neutral facial expression and both eyes open, and with full and handwritten name tag in the format first name, middle initial, last name, and extension name if any, and signature over printed name. Tandaan nga hindi pwede ang computer-generated na name tag. Dapat man nga mag-submit sa nga original photocopy of valid ID containing the applicant's clear picture, date of birth, signature, and signature of the authorized head of the issuing agency, kaangay isang driver's license, SSS, GSIS, PhilHealth ID, BIR, barangay, voter's ID, current office or school ID, valid passport, o kung police clearance. So, IDs with lacking information, particular na ang date of birth ng applicant, should be supported by his or her birth certificate, authenticated or issued by NSO or the local civil registrar. And finally, may kita sang examination fee of 700 pesos. So again, importante gid sa aton nga mga applicants na failure to take the examination will mean forfeiture of your examination fee. Kag-amuyad tong aton nga admission and the application requirements para sa Penology Officer Examination sini nga August 12, 2012. Sa aton pagpadayon sang aton topiko nato sa Penology Officer Examination, importante gid nga paghahandaan ini sa mga examinees. Kani sa mga interesado nga magkuha sa hambitan nga exam, yari ang coverage sa Penology Officer Examination. So, ang scope sa aton nga examination, 25% para sa general ability, kalakip diri ang verbal, analytical, kaga numerical areas. And may specialized area kita nga 75%. So, sa idalom sang specialized area, amo ang mga masunod. Jail management concepts and applications, 30%. Reception procedures, classification, and disciplinary boards, and punishable acts of inmates, 20%. Treatment of inmates with or custodial concepts and applications, 45%. Kaga inmates welfare and development programs, 15%. And BJMP administrative matters, 10%. So amoy na ang kalakip sa specialized area which covers 75% sa Penology Officer Exam. So, sa idalom sang jail management concepts and applications, which covers 30%, may yara ang mga masunod nga subtopics. We have commitment and classifications of inmates, prisoners, and detainees, 5%. So, ano ba lang sa idalom sini? We have courts and other entities authorized to commit a person to jail, categories of inmates, classification of prisoners, classification of detainees, inmate security classification, and requirements for commitment. So, amoy na ang mga subtopics sa idalom sang commitment and classifications of inmates, prisoners, and detainees, which consists 5% sa examination. Another subtopic is reception procedures, classification, and disciplinary boards and punishable acts of inmates, which consists 20%. So, sa idalom sini, amo ang mga masunod. Reception procedures, classification board members, subong man ang duties and functions of the classification board, disciplinary board members, duties and functions of the disciplinary board, authorized disciplinary punishment for inmates, limitations on discipline inmates. Kalakip man diri ang procedures in the hearing of disciplinary cases for inmates and punishable acts. Kalakip diri ang minor offenses, less grave offenses, and grave offenses. So, amoy na ang subtopic sa idalom sa reception procedures, classification, and disciplinary boards, and punishable acts of inmates, which consists 20% of the Penology Officer Exam. Another subtopic is treatment of inmates with special needs, which covers 5%. Kalakip diri ang handling of inmates with special needs kaangay sa mga kababainhan, drug users, dependents or drug addicts, alcoholics, mentally ill, sex deviates, suicidal inmates, handicapped, elderly and infirm, as well as foreigners or non-Filipino citizen inmates. Another subtopic sa idalom sang specialized area amo ang custodial concepts and applications, which covers 45% sang exam. So we have custody, security and control, emergency plans, and movement and transfer of prisoners and detainees, 35%. Sa idalom sini ang mga masunod nga subtopics: custody, security and control, inmates count o kung ginatawag nato nga head count, security procedures during meal service, dining room security, vital censorship, emergency plans o kung O plans, movement and transfer of inmates, cooperation among jail wardens on temporary detention of inmates, rules to be followed during movement or transfer of inmates, security and control do's and don'ts kaga definition of terms. And inmates' rights and privileges covers 10% under this subtopic. Mayara kita sang rights of inmates, privileges allowed for inmates, kag modes and guidelines of release. Another subtopic which covers 15% sang Penology Officer exam is Inmates Welfare and Development Programs. Under this are the following: guiding principles, provisions for basic needs, health services activities, livelihood services, literacy services, cultural and sports development activities, visitation services, paralegal services, interfaith services, therapeutic community modality program. And another subtopic which covers 10% ng exam is PJMP administrative matters. Kaga sa idalom sini amo ang mga masunod nga topiko: salient features of Republic Act number 6713 uko ng Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees. Kalakip man diri ang salient features ng Republic Act number 9263, an act providing for the professionalization of the Bureau of Fire Protection and Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, amending certain provisions of RA 6975, and omnibus rules on leave. So to recap, ang ato na coverage sa exam is general ability 25%, sa idalom sini amo ang verbal, analytical kag numerical concepts, and ang 75% covers specialized area. 30% amo ang jail management concepts and applications, 45% amo ang custodial concepts and applications, 15% ang inmates welfare and development programs, kaga 10% amo naman ang BJMP administrative matters. Kagamuyad tong coverage sa Penology Officer Examination nga paghahiwato na this August 12, 2012 diri sa Iloilo City. So you might ask, pila bala ang passing rate sa nahambitan nga exam? Agod nga makapasar sa Penology Officer exam, kinahanglan nga makakuha sa nga rating nga at least 80% ang examinee. So ang passing rate is at least 80%. Kaga karon nga inyo niya na hibaluan ang coverage sa exam as well as ang passing rate, kaga application kag admission requirements, sa diin naman bala mahimo nga magkuha o kung mag-file sang application para sa Penology Officer Examination. So, as mentioned earlier, application forms are available at the CSE field or regional offices. Aton nga regional office ang nahamtang sa number 7 Oñate Street, Mandurriao, Iloilo City. O kung mahimo man ninyo ini nga ma-download gikan sa CSE website www.csc.gov.ph. So sa mga luyag nga magkuha sa Penology Officer exam, you have until June 28, 2012 agod nga mag-file sang inyong nga application. So barely a month to go. So again, ang deadline sang filing sang application para sa Penology Officer exam sa August 12, 2012 is on June 28, 2012. Kagtandaan